Hi there, and welcome to Have a Better Behaved Child in Just 1 Hour. For the next hour, we're going to talk about positive discipline and how to handle our anger, our children's anger, and what to do to discipline our children in respectful methods besides punishment. We will look at every child's age group. My name is Judy Arnall. I'm a certified family life educator and a Toastmaster, and I'm quite the idealist when it comes to parenting, just because I work in parenting. I go to conferences, I read research, and I try and bring home the recommendations to my family. And it can be hard sometimes, especially because I'm an author. I've written 2 books, the first one on getting a grip and getting calm, and it's called Parenting with Patience. And once we're calm, then we need to solve the problem. And that book's called Discipline Without Distress, Ways to Take Care of Any Child Misbehavior Without Using Punishments. But I'm also a realist. I'm the mom of 5 kids. They range in age from 12 to 24, and they come in all kinds of temperaments, ranging from easygoing to strong-willed. And I think parenting is one of the hardest jobs in the world. In no other job are you expected to control other people with minds and wills of their own. It's a job that we're not prepared for unless we remember all those classes in child development from high school. And it's a job that once we get really good at it, we're not in a job anymore. Teaching is also another hard job. I think every parent and teacher should have a tip jar on their table. So back to my family. I have to tell you, part of this webinar is coming at you from parent to parent. I hope to share some tips that I have found useful in my family in parenting non-punitively. I spanked my child once. And of course, when parents are desperate, they try desperate things. And although I teach parents not to spank, I thought I was desperate enough to try it. And when my 4-year-old son looked at me and said, "Mommy, hitting hurts people," exactly the same words I have told him many times, I looked at him with tears in my eyes and decided that's not what I'm going to do. So I never spanked again. But I did use common emotional punishments such as timeout, consequences, taking away privileges, and their precious items. But then I realized as the children got older that that was really impacting our communication. So gradually I dropped those too. I've raised 3 children who are now in university and 2 teens all through the teen years without using any punishments. I didn't take away cell phones, computers, didn't take doors off rooms, didn't ground them. Every issue we had, we problem solved it. So in this webinar, I hope to share with you some tips that will help you get a better behaved child and grow your family closer. This webinar is copyrighted Professional Parenting 2015. We hope that you don't lend it, share it, download it, or provide it to anyone without permission. This webinar is not meant to replace advice from your healthcare professional and is only for educational use. So let's talk a little bit about positive discipline. What is positive discipline? It's pretty well teaching without physical or emotional punishments. It's teaching children how to behave in the world they're going to live in. Right now, parent-child communication is very important. We want to build good relationships with our children. And yes, some of us want to have control over them, but oftentimes we can't have one or the other. We have to choose. If you're going to default to great relationship, a lot of times the behavior takes care of itself. What we need to do is become a submarine parent. What a submarine parent does is not only looks at the behavior on the surface, but gets into the little parent submarine under the water and looks at what's beneath the behavior of the child. What is their NOF, or short for need or feeling? Because that is what's going to drive the child's behavior. Oftentimes, if we take care of their needs and their feelings, the behavior corrects itself. Now, children are growing up in a new world. 20, 30 years ago, we had some parenting techniques and they worked for us during that time, but they no longer work for us today. Most of our children's activities as they get older are invisible to parents and caregivers. And a lot of parents don't know or can't supervise their children anymore in their worlds of the internet and online life. So where we could supervise, we can't anymore. Many parents are shut out of children's invisible world. And because of this, communication with our children is more important than ever before. So we need to build communication. So 30 years ago, our parenting revolved around fear in the parent relationship. Our children behaved because they were scared of us and we were bigger than them. Nowadays, children aren't so scared anymore. They don't have a community of adults looking out for them, and certainly not on the same page in regards to parenting styles. So now parents have changed. The emphasis on parent authority is now on the fact that we can impart our knowledge, our experience, our communication in an atmosphere of mutual respect. Our parenting styles have changed. We're emphasizing now respectful relationships between parents and child and taking that fear out of the parenting relationship. Why? Because children don't come for help to parents and caregivers that they fear. They come when they feel they can. Let's look a bit at parenting styles. There are about 5 main types, and they're built on an axis of structure and nurturing, 2 factors that every child needs. Some parenting styles have a lot of structure and a lot of nurturing, and those are the best places to be. So what is nurturing? Nurturing is expressing unconditional love through kind and encouraging words. It's providing comfort, care, and attention. It's listening and emotional validation. And it's providing non-sexual touch, such as hugs, pats, cuddles, kisses, and solving all parenting problems without emotional or physical punishment. What is structure? Structure is providing for physical, social, academic, and emotional needs. It's facilitating an education, allowing age-appropriate decisions and natural consequences when they're safe. It's guiding, facilitating, mentoring, coaching, and teaching to navigate life situations. It's using collaborative problem solving for all conflicts, setting family rules and limits together, having routines, rituals, and celebrations. It's providing supervision and monitoring, even in the teen years. It's addressing bad behavior without using punishment instead of ignoring or tolerating it. It's modeling responsible citizenship and relationship skills and expecting the child to live up to all he or she is capable of becoming. So back to our parenting styles. An authoritarian parenting style has a lot of structure, but not a lot of the nurturing. A permissive parenting style has a lot of the nurturing, but not a lot of the structure. An uninvolved parenting style has neither, not nurturing and not structure. And an authoritative or a collaborative parenting style is in the sweet spot, right where high structure and high nurturing is. And that's where parents want to be at least 70% of the time. We're not perfect, can't be there for all the time, but we can be there for most of the time. What's the difference between authoritative and collaborative? Well, authoritative is more, I'll get your input, but I make the decisions. Collaborative is more, I'll get your input and I'll give my input, and together we can come up with win-win decisions. So there is a slight difference. Sometimes authoritative parenting tends to use some emotional punishments, such as timeout or consequences. Authoritarian parenting often uses physical punishments and emotional punishments. And collaborative parenting uses no emotional or physical punishments. So again, best place to be is in the green zone. That has the best outcomes for children's health and well-being. So we often ask parents, what are qualities you want to see in your relationship with your teenager? And what are some behaviors that are causing issues right now? When parents fast forward to when their child's a teen, this is what they come up with, this list on the left-hand side. No matter where we're teaching, that we get the same outcomes that parents want. And the list on the right side often is a lot longer than here. But what we want parents to do is look at, is what you're doing now to handle the issues on the right going to get you what you want on the left-hand side down the road when you have a teenager? Because it's nice to have a goal in mind. So are we looking at short-run goals? And often those things are, we want to stop the behavior, make the child listen, and if we're really honest with ourselves, we want to relieve our anger. But our long-run goals is we want to create connection and belonging in the family. We want to teach our children, and we want to build our relationships and help them become all they can be. And the long-run goals is what should guide our discipline today. A positive approach is always better than a negative one. A myth is that we have to make kids feel bad in order to be good. The truth is, children who feel respected behave better. Research currently shows there are no long-term benefits to using punishments in parenting, especially in terms of enhancing the parent-child relationship. There are no studies that show that physical or emotional punishments bring children and parents closer together. There are lots of studies that show that punishment interferes with learning, can cause worse behavior, teaches children how to punish others, can cause stress, teaches kids to hide mistakes, and can risk the relationship because it introduces fear in the parent-child relationship. So why should we stop yelling, shaming, consequences, and spanking? Well, positive discipline builds brains and relationships. Let's look at brains. Anger is a very common side effect of parenting. It's okay for parents to feel anger, and it's okay for children to feel anger too. It's what we do when we're angry that matters. Anger is a form of stress, and stress can have different effects on the brain. When we're under stress, our body releases cortisol, which is called the stress hormone, and adrenaline. And some of that is good. If it's positive stress, it motivates us and builds our resiliency. An example of positive stress is a birthday party for a child that they don't know anyone. They go to it, they get through it, they enjoy it, they feel good about it after. Tolerable stress is stress that subsides and is buffered by caring people. An example of tolerable stress is having to make a presentation at school. Children, it's stressful, it's not pleasant for them, but they get over it. Toxic stress is prolonged, unpredictable, and not buffered by caring people and can cause long-term damage. When children are punished by the people they love the most in their lives, it causes them stress. And when that happens on a regular basis, it can have profound effects on their brain development. Cortisol has been shown to damage neurons in many research studies. But it matters. Is it stress happening regularly or rarely? And that's where you want a parent with nurturing and structure most of the time. If you're there 70% of the time, that's regular. The odd time, and believe me, as a parent, I know there are times we are not the perfect parents. We do things that are not in our best or our children's best interest, and we make mistakes, and that's okay. As long as it's not regular, it's rare. So forgive yourself because your children are going to forgive you too. And all you can do is wake up the next morning and say, okay, I'm going to try this again. Let's have a better day today. Now, there are some differences between discipline and punishment. Discipline means to teach. Punishment means to hurt. So discipline can be very proactive. It can promote long-term learning, and it connects the relationship. Punishment is often reactive. It comes from our anger. It promotes short-term learning, such as don't get caught, and it disconnects the relationship. So discipline, the definition is the adult gives guidance and information and helps the child to solve problems within an environment of nurturing and healthy structure. Punishment is an action that is painful or humiliating that a more powerful person does to a less powerful one in hopes of producing a change of behavior. And what happens is as children get older, the power differential between parents and children becomes closer together. So as a child gets more capable and independent, parents lose their power to punish, and they have a lot less effect on the child. There are problems with spanking. That's not to say that all these things are going to happen. It just means that the risk of these things happening goes up the more parents spank or use physical punishment. There are also problems with child time out. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can see them on the screen. Um, these are things that happen when children are forced into a timed timeout. And parents are quite surprised that timeout doesn't work for every child. Sometimes they work for very easygoing children, but almost any punishment would work. But for children who are what we call spirited or strong-willed children, a lot of conventional discipline techniques do not work. And oftentimes it escalates anger and stress rather than calm children down. There are problems with consequences. Now, as a parent, I thought consequences were really, really good teaching tools. And like I said, until my children reached an age where they realized that it wasn't them choosing the consequence, it was me setting it up and imposing it on them. And that impacted our communication. So even though my consequences were respectful, reasonable, and related, they did not have that fourth element that they resolved a problem to a win-win situation. So oftentimes when parents use consequences, they're designed to hurt the child rather than fix the problem. And the parents set it up and the children know. So I asked myself, would you do it to your partner, your friend, your sister, your neighbor, your coworker? If you wouldn't, why would you do it to your child? Consequences have to be mutually respectful. So the difference between consequences and problem solving is that problem solving helps parents and children come up with more than one way to solve a problem. Oftentimes, consequences are a parent finding one way to solve a problem and enforcing that with a child. But when parent and child put their heads together, they can come up with a lot of different ways to solve problems. Problems with internet shaming, which seems to be the new method of punishment. The problem is it's more public than other types of punishments. It can destroy children's self-esteem and especially amongst their social circle. It can be permanent and copied, and in a way it's kind of hypocritical in that parents always teach children about digital citizenship and responsibility, and yet we do it to them. And as my children say, it's cyberbullying. And do we want to do that to our children? There are many benefits of giving up punishments. There's less hostility, rebellion, attitude. The child can go to the parents for help because they know they're not going to be in trouble. It produces less stress and illness from those stresses, and the child has more responsibility. The child also has better social and life skills because he learns how to communicate, problem solve, and resolve conflicts. Those are real life relationship skills. And what better person to teach them is you, their parent. All the rest of the world can impose all kinds of punishments on your child, but only you have a vested interest in teaching them real life skills that they're going to learn and will last them forever. Okay, so let's look at the easy three-step model. In looking at this webinar, if you don't want to watch the whole thing in one go, such as 1 hour, you can take it in chunks. You can try out step 1 for a week or a month, see how it works. And then try step 2, see how that works. And then lastly, try step 3 and see how that works for you. Or you can try it all at once. The three-step model is outlined in the book Parenting with Patience, and more details are available there. For the first step, get yourself calm. So time out is for you. Now, when you take an airplane trip, You often hear that the flight attendants say, put your oxygen mask on first and then help people in your care. And that is absolutely true when you're dealing with your anger. Then you take care of your child. You help them calm down. And the best way to do that is not time out, but time in. And lastly, solve the problem. Now that everyone's calm, solve the problem by spending time together. So let's look at step 1. This is about you. So timeout is for you. I'm going to use this example. When one of my children were 4 years old, he was really hungry. And I was making dinner, and he came to me before dinner and he says, Mom, I'm hungry. I want some chips. And I said, no chips before dinner because I want you to eat your supper. It's very nutritional. Well, he did not like my no. So what that little boy did was he took his big bag of chips up to his room, opened the bag, and poured all the chips on his carpet and proceeded to stomp every last piece of chip into the carpet. When I was downstairs and I heard stomp, 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 like any good parent, I thought, I better go investigate this. So I went upstairs and I was horrified to see what he had done. Now, in teaching parents, I know that there are 2 instances where parents pull out the big discipline punishment methods of physical punishment and the emotional punishments. It's when children deliberately disobey them or when they react back with attitude and disrespect. So this was an instance of deliberate disobedience. And that's when parents are livid. Absolutely. So, and I was no different. When I saw this, I was so angry. And if I had been a spanker, I would have spanked. But I had to model self-control because kids learn how we deal with stress and they learn how to deal with it too. So I said in my very best iMessage, I said, I am so angry, I'm going to go take a time out. And I walked away. And what that did was show him that when parents are under stress, a timeout is the best thing to do. We teach children to take time out by modeling it, not by forcing them into it. And if we're really honest about timeout, it's for us. It's for us to get control of our anger more so than it is to teach them a lesson. So I took my time out. Now, one of the big myths of parenting is that you have to deal with things in the moment. And that is not true. There is no problem, no matter what age of your child, in taking 10 to 15 minutes, a time out for you and getting a grip on your anger. They will not forget when you come back and deal with the situation calmly, no matter what their age. So what you can do is take a time out. So I went downstairs and I cried and I phoned a friend. Now, good parents feel angry. It's normal to feel angry in parenting. But what we need to do is take a break before we hurt anyone. So we want to get ourselves calm, and we definitely want to separate our anger from our discipline because then we make better choices. Part of that is knowing what our triggers are. Is it tiredness? then maybe we could look at ways of getting more sleep. Is it hurriedness? What can we cut out of our schedule? Is it perfection? What can we let go of to make our family lives easier? There are many ways we can make our lives less stressful. Messes? Take a picture of it and you'll laugh at it later. So what can we do to calm down in the moment of anger? There are many ways to calm down. Here are some of them. In the book, Parenting with Patience, I list about 80 of them. Some of them are from parents who've offered, well, they go and they scrub their sink to get rid of that anger. Other parents go out and mow the lawn. Other parents go and vacuum. Others go in the bathroom, turn on the taps, and scream. So whatever you can do to calm down that doesn't hurt anybody or wreck anything is a good tool for you to use. Try one. Pick a tool that's going to work this week and try it out. And you are modeling to your child a respectful way of handling your anger without hurting and without destroying property. So in this instant, I went downstairs, I called a friend, and I cried. And it was great. I calmed down. I felt better. I was ready to deal with the situation. So child timeouts can be emotional punishment. When we're upset, we drag them to timeout, also called quiet time, alone time, the naughty step. But often we're angry and we need them out of our way. Now, if that's the case, put your child in a safe place and take a time out yourself. And there's many ways we can take time out with children underfoot. So whenever you're feeling angry, stop, breathe, ask yourself, what do I need? Make sure you put yourself first. Put the rocks in your jar first, and then the sand can go in. Because when you get control of yourself, you make way better decisions. And timeout's a positive life skill for children. Model it. Be the person you want them to be. There are many ways to take time out with children underfoot, and oftentimes you could put them in a safe place or put on a movie to entertain them, lock yourself in the bathroom if they're safe, put them in a crib. If you need to drop everything and just get a grip on your anger, that's what you need to do. Now, when you're calm, you can go back up to the child. So I was calm. I went back up to my son and I gave him my best discipline statement, which I call an I statement. I statements start with I. I feel upset when you disobey my direction because I don't feel respected and I want you not to spoil your supper. So that is an assertive way to get across my needs in a way that doesn't sound like a you statement. You are a bad boy. You don't want to say that. You want to say what you reflect. I feel upset when you eat chips because I told you not to. Okay, so let's look at step 2. Now this is about your child. Get your child calm next. Now at some point, sometimes it's just us who's angry and the children are not. But a lot of times they're angry too, and you have to deal with either fighting siblings or an upset child. And the best way to do that is time in. Time in means lending your calm, adult, problem-solving head to them and helping them calm down. Because children are not born naturally knowing how to calm down. It's kind of like if we want them to learn calm down methods, we have to teach it to them, and not in the moment they're angry. It has to come later. Often we can look at our children's lives. What are their stress triggers? What makes them angry? Oftentimes it's siblings, it's just frustration from not being able to do something due to their limitations. And they may need help to calm down. Let's get back to the chip example. So I was calm, I came back upstairs, and now one of the sons who shared a room with his brother, they were in a fight because the brother didn't like chips all over his floor either. So now as the adult, I could help facilitate this. So I took both boys by the hand, didn't say anything, went downstairs, sat down on the couch with them, and I was in the middle, and that was it. I needed to calm them down before any teaching can sink in. So I picked up a book and started reading aloud. What this did was it provided a focus for the children to focus on rather than to focus on their anger. So eventually they started listening to the story, and it also builds their literacy skills because we're reading. After about 10 to 15 minutes, they were calm and we could deal with the situation. Now, it's normal for children to be angry too. There are no limits on feelings for children or parents, just limits on behaviors resulting from those feelings. So remember, timeout's for you, time in is for your child. We don't say to a child, here's a book, go to your room and you stay in there and learn that math book, and when you're done, then you can come out. We don't expect that of children to learn math that way. Why do we expect that for children to learn emotional intelligence? Remember, you're not the target. Don't take their anger personally. And don't give power to their anger. If children are angry and they make messes or wreck things, do not clean it up. Let them calm down, help them calm down, and then you can clean up together. Now, we often look at misbehavior because we think children know better, but oftentimes they don't know better. They have limited self-control due to their brain development, and they have a need or feeling to fulfill. And what a child thinks at 4 years is not the same as what a child thinks at 7 years. For example, Jean Piaget, the famous psychologist, discovered that children at 4 years think that water poured from a container actually changes quantity of water when it's in a different size. But by 7 years, they know that the water has not changed quantity even though it's in a different size and shape of glass. And that's that leap of brain development. And children have that same leap in terms of self-control. Let's look at young children's anger. Why are toddlers aggressive? Well, it's very common for toddlers to hit, push, bite, and throw because their verbal ability is not there. What can you do? Redirect them to a self-calming tool. Here are some calm down tools for children. Yes, they're the same ones as for adults. They can cry, they can talk to a friend, they can drink a glass of water, they can read a book, they can drum. There's lots of things children can do. Here's some more specifically. You can get a beanbag chair or an anger pillow and they could take their anger out on that. They could use an anger tube to help them breathe. And what that is just a paper towel roll you can wrap with paper and leave both ends open and help them to breathe out their anger. They can hammer their hands or stomp on the spot. You could have a special anger drum. They could signal for a hug. They could draw their feelings, speak their feelings, cry their feelings. And if they're biting, you want a teething ring. So oftentimes we tell children, no hitting, no biting, no pushing, no throwing. but we don't tell them what they can do. And we have to give substitutes for them to express their anger that are acceptable in the family. What can they do? Remember that young children are very physical, so they tend to choose more physical means of expressing anger. Kicking a beanbag chair doesn't hurt anybody or hurt anything. And as they grow older, they will find better ways to express their anger through their words. Temper tantrums. This is the typical way adults communicate. We use voice tone, we use words, and body language. Young children mostly scream, yell, and use a lot of body language, and that's their temper tantrums. And oftentimes when we say no, they don't like the no, and that's okay. And tantrums are the way they can express their frustration and anger because they don't have the verbal ability to say they don't like that. Now, temper tantrums have a life. You can try and prevent them, but past a certain point you can't. So you want to move them to a quiet spot, wait it out while they peak, stay calm, ignore everybody else or get to a quieter spot, and then let them calm down. They eventually go up and they calm down. When they're calm, validate your child's feelings. You don't have to agree to their behavior, but you can validate their feelings and give them the words for how they're feeling. That builds their feeling vocabulary, so when they're older, they can tell you how they feel rather than show you how they feel. And at the end, solve the problem. The worst thing you can do is give in to a power struggle temper tantrum. So if they want something and you've said no, stay with your no. Do not give in. And that's one of the hardest parts of discipline. Sometimes children are just overwhelmed by too much stimulation. And the best situation for that is to remove them from the stimulation. Again, you're not the target. Don't take it personally. How do you handle hitting, throwing, pushing, and biting? Again, you want to teach children what to do instead. And timing is everything. Teach when children are calm, not in the heat of the moment. A person who's upset does not think straight. We don't discipline well when we're upset, and children don't learn well when they're upset. Get everybody calm first, and then teach them what to do next time. So when children are upset and they're calmed down, you can say, next time you're angry, how about we have this drum, and it can be your anger drum. You can use the drum when you're angry. And you redirect them over and over and over and over and over again, and it's a lot of teaching. One thing I'd like to mention is children are born with different temperaments. They range from easygoing to high need or spirited. Those children used to be called stubborn, strong-willed, but now we recognize they have certain characteristics. There are 8 characteristics and temperament traits. Children who are spirited side of the continuum are very persistent, they're very sensitive, not very adaptable, very intense, not very regular, very active, usually a negative first reaction to change, and quite moody. An easygoing child is on the other end of the continuum and is not very persistent, not very sensitive, very adaptable, not very intense, very regular, not very active, positive first reaction, and pretty even-keeled moods. So your children is born with a temperament, and it usually stays with them all their lives. And the best thing to do is work with the temperament rather than try and change it. As a mom of 3 spirited children, I have learned early on that you're parenting teenagers when they're toddlers, and you get quite used to persistence. And you want to channel that persistence because all these characteristics are really, really great in the long run when they're teenagers, but they can be very challenging in the toddler years. So what do the more spirited children need? Because they do present more challenging parenting. They need lots of patience. They need your flexibility. They need you to pick your battles. Just choose the ones you really, really want to choose. Typical parenting techniques don't work, so problem solving works for everybody. They need your understanding and they need your protection from criticism because your child is very unique. With older children's anger, you want to validate their feelings, give them some space to cool down, reconnect with them after they're calm. Ask them, how can you respond when they're angry? What would be helpful to them? Connect with them and then direct them. Let them clean up their own anger messes and give them hugs. Oftentimes, older children react in terms of attitude. The statements on the left are what we call attitude statements. And we need to teach them the I statement language in order to get their points and their assertiveness across. So the statements on the right are what they're saying on the left in terms of I statements. So we have to teach them the words, and it's best if they start with I because those are the least blameful. And it helps to listen to their feelings. Now, the last section is step 3, restitution and teaching. Here's the discipline part. So, if you're calm, they're calm, now you still have a problem to solve. And you can do that by putting your 2 heads together and coming up with different ways. The ideas in this section come from the book Discipline Without Distress, if you want more detailed information. So back to our chip scenario. Now, my son and I, we actually had 3 problems here. The first one was the most obvious. What are we going to do with the mess? The second one is, what is he going to do the next time I say no and he's angry? And what can he do with his anger? And the third problem is the original problem as to what are we going to do when he wants to eat something before dinner and I said no. So if you notice, a quick spanking would have taken away all those 3 problems to solve, but he wouldn't have learned anything. So when we were calm, I showed him how to clean up. So he did the vacuuming, he sprayed the carpet cleaner. Then we decided to try a new way he could handle his anger. So we made an anger tube. And the next time he was angry, I was going to hand him the tube to breathe into. And the third one required a little more work. We had to sit down and problem solve what could we do when he was hungry and I didn't want to give him chips. So we came up with the idea to have a little section of the fridge that he could access okayed food on. So discipline is teaching self-control. And it's moving from outer control to inner self-control. So we know disciplined people. They're the ones that study instead of party. They go to work instead of wanting to play. They go to the gym instead of just sitting on social media. They're the ones who eat vegetables instead of the cake. And we all have a measure of outer to inner control. And it gets better as we get older. Children learn and perfect that as they get older too. The first thing you have to ask yourself, is it a development or a discipline issue? Most parents are very good at knowing physical development, but not the emotional and social and cognitive development of their children. Most parents don't realize that children under age 5 listen about 40% of the time. And when we say listen, we mean compliance or obedience. Children under age 5 don't comply 60% of the time, and that's normal. So if your child is not listening, it's not a discipline issue, it's a development issue. And it gets better as children get older. Now, children, like I said, develop in 4 areas: physical, cognitive, social, and emotional. So this section I'm going to go through what children are capable of and appropriate discipline tools for that age. So babies, they're in the being stage, 0 to 6 months. Their whole job is to build attachment and trust. Their brain development is mostly in terms of sensory input and output. They take in information, or they have to have a feeling, and they cry. So they're hungry, they cry. They're lonely, they cry. They're cold, they cry. That's all they do. And they build attachment with adults who are warm and caring and build trust. Yes, we have to look at discipline tools at this age because a lot of parents think that children can think manipulatively, and it's not true. So fulfill children's needs. When children cry, they have a need, and meeting their need does not spoil them. It helps them develop. And to learn child development, it's a great opportunity at this age. More baby tools as babies get older and start crawling is substitution, prevention, so child-proof, distraction, and redirection. And of course, parent timeouts. So find time to meet your needs for food, sleep, and enjoyment. Toddlers, now we're getting into 6 to 18 months, and they're in the doing and exploring stage. Their whole brain development is driving them to explore their surroundings with all 5 senses. They put things in their mouths, they want to touch, they want to see and taste and hear and explore. And they're still building security and trust with their attachment person. And because of that, separation anxiety begins. Their attachment person is their whole world. And when they're separated, it is very, very unsecure to them. And that's normal. They're not behaving badly. It's normal development. For older toddlers from 18 months to 3 years, they're feeling. They have intense feelings. And this is the prime sweet spot for temper tantrums. They have intense feelings and they can't verbalize them, so they let it loose in tantrums, their whole body language. They want independence, but they want security. They want to explore, but they want security. They often hit, push, and bite, and they often say no because that's a very strong word that's often said to them. They have very little self-control. They're honest, they're active, they have a short attention span, they're not logical, so consequences are lost on them, and they have limited speech. So they have extreme desires and very limited capabilities. Best discipline tools here are action. You can't parent a toddler from a lounge chair. You have to supervise constantly. Child-proof the environment and redirect. redirect. Some additional toddler tools are constantly giving information, but don't expect them to understand it. Plan ahead for problem areas. Have lots of routines. And above all, you can always carry them and remove them. When they don't want to go, you can pick them up and take them. Give lots of attention, positive commands, space, supervision. Remember your timeout and natural consequences when they're safe. Modeling, lots of stimulation, lots of distraction, and parent problem solving mostly on your part. And sometimes just accept it. It is a stage they're going to grow out of. The most important part is don't project. Damage control. You're keeping them safe. You're keeping your things safe. You'll have plenty of time to teach more in the school age years when they have more brain capacity. So you're keeping them safe. A lot of parents think if you don't address it now, that they are going to snowball their behaviors. And that's not true. That's another parenting myth. You will have many chances to teach over and over and over again. Parents often feel they have to teach the most important lessons at a time when children's brains are ill-equipped to handle the frustrations of those limits. You will have lots of time, so don't project. The next stage is preschoolers, and they're in the thinking and questioning stage, ages 3 to 5. And like I said, under age 5, 40% of the time you might get compliance. 60% of the time you won't. Preschoolers have lots of questions. They like to whine, they're very active, and they want to use their power, which can often get them into power struggles over issues they do have control over, like eating, sleeping, toileting, and learning. They have amazing imaginations, which breed fears, and they're becoming more cooperative. Still a short attention span and very limited logic, which is why you don't do logical consequences until the school age years. Their verbal ability is emerging. Best discipline tools for preschoolers? Again, action, just like toddlers, but don't forget the teaching part. Talk, but don't think they're going to understand it the first or the 20th time. It's teaching over and over and over and over again. Best discipline here is if you've said no, stay with your no. And use your parent-guided problem solving. This is an age they can start problem solving with you with limited options. And time in. Help them calm down. Additional tools. Giving them choices, using the when-then rule, such as when you get your shoes on, then we can go into the garden. Role-playing correct behavior, using a timer or clock to set limits, asking reflective questions. What would happen if everybody threw their gum wrapper on the ground? Telling moral stories, such as The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Make it a game because everybody loves fun. Pick your battles. Warn of transition times. Get their eye contact. Use your I statements. Connect, then direct. Natural consequences and giving lots of information and attention. And all the tools for toddlers and babies too. School age. Now they're starting to think logically. And this is when many parents use logical consequences. The trouble is, this is an age you can teach children to problem solve, and that's a more useful life skill. This age, they're becoming less egocentric and more aware of other people's needs and feelings, so their compliance really ups to about 60%. Here are some characteristics. They're copycats, They question, they experiment, they're rule-focused, they're often sore losers, they're negotiators, they're black and white thinkers and concrete learners. It has to be tangible in their environment. Tweens are becoming more peer-focused, growing more out of conventional toys and into more electronic toys, getting a little attitude and a lot more worries. Discipline here is talk and then back it by action. So model, listen and validate their feelings and opinions. Use your I statements to assert your needs and aim for win-win collaborative problem solving. Meet your needs, meet their needs, come up with solutions together. Here's a few more school-age tools. I'm not really going to talk about all these, but here are more tools in your toolbox from Discipline Without Distress. Teenagers are heading into identity, separation, and sexuality stage. They can think abstractly, and their feelings are erupting again almost as much as the toddler stage. In a respectful relationship with a teenager, you can expect about 80% compliance. But make sure you're in a non-punitive, mutually respectful relationship. They do care about what you need. Characteristics of teenagers. Early teens are a little different than late teens. I'll give you a minute to read these. Some I'll explain are abstract learners, means they can think beyond what's in their world. So they can think about abstract concepts like religion, death, theories, all the gray areas in life. This is a time in late teens where anxiety, stress, and mental health issues may erupt. And oftentimes teenagers deal with those issues through substance and addictions. They still have a sense of, oh, it'll never happen to me, kind of omnipotence. Best discipline tools, negotiation. Yes, from the age of 13 to 18, you are in the final third of parenting. Start treating them with adult tools to teach them relationship problem solving. Problem solving is one of the #1 skills required for jobs, for college, for the workplace, and for future relationships. Next is collaboration, communication. Those are the top 3 soft skills that children need, in addition to technical skills. So you are teaching them for life, for success in their future. So problem solving is not you against me, it's you and me against the problem. So use your teenager's brain. Come up with their ideas for meeting their needs and your needs. Brainstorm and then evaluate the ideas and pick one that meets both needs. You might want to check back later and see if it's working. Problem solving is a great tool to inspire creativity. For example, can we design a dresser made of 20 working drawers of unequal sizes to fit in a round space? Chances are you're going to say, don't think it can happen. But when people think creatively, they come up with solutions that are outside the box. And we need creative thinkers in our world to solve our economic, our environmental, and our political problems. And this next generation is going to need problem-solving skills. Here's your dresser. We need kids to think outside the box. Some additional teenage tools are negotiating your no. And remember, they can think abstractly now. So if you've made a mistake, you've got new information, it's okay to say, well, maybe I will consider that. Focus on their strengths, speak respectfully, decide always what you will do. You control your car, your credit card, and your bills. You decide what you will and will not do and what your boundaries are. Separate the big issues from the small. Respect their privacy, except for online where if they post it for everyone else to see, it's open for you too. Connect, spend time together, validate their feelings, listen, listen, listen. Encourage their capabilities. You can have some contracts with them because that's real life too. And accept their values. Acceptance can often inspire change. You're going to have a lot of discussion and conversations with your child, and you want that free flow of communication. Because as they get older, your control decreases. But in a respectful, non-punitive relationship, your influence will increase, and it grows with age and respect. And influence is that powerful little tool that keeps children on the straight and narrow when you're not around. It's that little voice in their ear that says, what would Dad think? What would my mom want? What should I do here? It's their moral compass, and you have massive amounts of influence. So let it filter to the children. Stop using punishments. The last stage is what we call emerging adulthood, and that is where children ages 19 to 25 are honing their reason, their decision-making, their critical thinking skills. It's the prefrontal cortex of the brain that is finishing developing. And children go through all these stages. If you're not sure what to use, the best discipline tool ever is a hug. It gets people talking because it starts from a place of compassion and love. And it conveys unconditional love. Teaching sinks in after everyone's calm. So here's some examples. Between discipline and development. What age do you think kids can bathe alone? If you've said age 8, that's right. What age do children stop putting things in their mouths? Age 4. What age can kids care for a pet without reminding? Age 12. Before that, if you're constantly reminding, that is a development issue. That's not discipline. What age is the most aggressive age of childhood? Age 2 to 3. What age can children start chores and duties? 18 months they can start helping. What age do children have feelings? Birth. What age can kids stay home alone? Depending on your child's ability to problem solve, 12 is usually the age. What age do kids' brains stop developing? 25. What age do most children sleep through the night consistently? Usually around age 5. What age can kids judge traffic speed in order to cross a road? Usually about 9, but it varies with a child. What age can kids think with logic? Around age 6, and that's why they start school at 6. What age can kids play together cooperatively? 3. What age do they understand no means don't do something? 5. What age do most kids stop hitting? Usually about 7 with outside children at school and friends, but usually around age 13 with siblings. What age can kids do their own laundry? 9. What age can kids tell the commercial from the program on TV? 8. What age do kids start gaining self-control? 5. So if you want to know development, it's a good idea to consult a book on child development. I have really good charts in Parenting with Patience, but your health clinic would have brochures on that too. And remember, your child at 3 is not going to be the same child at 13. They will be much more cooperative, much more in tune with what you need and want and your feelings. A little bit on sibling anger. There are many ways to work out children's conflicts. Under 3 years, you definitely want to stop hitting and biting. You want to redirect them to a way to express their anger. Maybe they can stomp their feet. And you have to just keep repeating. 4 and up, you can teach them ways to compromise. You can use a timer for timing things. You can teach I statements, problem solving, compromise, the good old rock, paper, scissors, picking a number between 1 and 10, coin toss schedules. We had a bigger person button, so the person who compromised the most got to wear the button. And have a suggestion volley between them. And remember, you're there to help them problem solve. You're not there to work it out for them. So we're nearing our hour. Just a quick recap. Again, discipline, 3 and under, very little self-control, lots of redirection, child-proofing. 4 and over, start talking, problem-solving, discussions, and offering lots of choices. So the 3 steps: get yourself calm first. Time out is for you. Get your child calm. Time in is for them. Solve the problem when everyone's calm. And that's time together. And there's lots of tools. Remember, there are 2 people in your relationship. I often read parenting books and it tells me what to do to my child, but it often doesn't answer what happens when my child reacts back. So problem solving will help build your relationship, and every child reacts back with positiveness. I just want to read this little poem by Anonymous, The Parent's Affirmation of Imperfection. It's perfectly okay for me to be imperfect. This includes not being a perfect parent. It means it's okay I've already made a lot of mistakes as a parent, and it's okay I'm going to make other mistakes in the future. What's not okay is for me to pretend that I'm perfect and hide my mistakes from myself. Instead, I'll catch my mistakes with a smile rather than a kick and learn what they have to teach me. That way, I won't make the same mistakes too often, and I'll never be a perfect parent, because that's okay. My goal is excellence, not perfection. Excuse me. Remember, parents never lose their influence in connected relationships. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or check out our website at professionalparenting.ca. I hope you have an enjoyable parenting relationship. The days are long, but it really does. The years fly by. And remember, there is no perfect parents. Every little step you make to build your relationship is going to pay off in the long run. Give yourself a break and start small. Start with step 1 for today, and then step 2, and then step 3. And let go of the punishments bit by bit. You will have a better behaved child and a closer family. Thank you for joining us.